All right, so tomorrow, our next meeting is tomorrow, Thursday, April 23rd, 4 to 5:30 p.m. via Google Hangout. The link will be below. We got a lot of people signed up for it. I think it'll be good. I just hope everybody mutes himself. Um, this is by request. Oh, also, if you like the videos, please click the thumbs up sign. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Share this, comment. This topic today is going to be by request. And if you have any requests for anything else, please put in a comment with a request for what you want, and I will do it. So the request today was about flipping notes. Now, as some of you know, I was in the mortgage business for 17 years, and during those years, I really was many of those years I was in charge of secondary marketing, which means I was selling the notes. Right. So just a quick primer on how mortgages work. A mortgage company, even a bank. Well, a bank may use their own money, but most mortgage lenders will borrow that money to make the loan short term from something called a warehouse line, and then they'll just sell the notes, sell the paper to a buyer. Right? That buyer could be a Chase, a Wells Fargo, Citi, or you could sell directly to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. In the crazy days of 2005, 6, and 7, we were selling to a lot of Wall Street players. That's really what caused the whole crash, in my opinion. But so I sold billions of dollars worth of notes. I mean, when things were busy, I was selling over $100 million, well over $100 million a month in notes. So I know how notes work. But in New York, buying sort of and flipping notes has certain other issues that come with it. Right? It's very hard to foreclose in New York. Foreclosure, if it's being handled by an attorney, can take over 12 years. And that sounds nuts. I mean, people in other states think that 6 months is a long time. Texas, I think in 2 months you're out. It can take 12 years in New York. So the problem is the notes in New York, right? The mortgages in New York that are, and just to explain what a note is, okay? When an ordinary homeowner buys a house, he borrows money. That is a note. The note says I owe $300,000 at 5% interest. There is then a document that's recorded called a mortgage, which is a lien on the property that says if you don't follow the terms of the note, if you don't pay the note, then we can foreclose on the property, right? So when you sell notes and flip notes, it's just selling paper, selling IOUs, right, which trade at different prices. They trade at a premium. So explain. So in New York, when notes sell that are not guaranteed by Fannie, Freddie, or the FHA, they're going to sell probably at a discount, which means that if you have a $100,000 note, let's say a second lien that you lent somebody, right? A guy took a $100,000 mortgage and needed another $100,000 you lent him. If you want to sell that, it's because it could take 12 years if the guy stops paying, and you want to sell that note into the market, and there are people who actively buy these notes, you're probably going to get less money for it in New York. So I've never gotten involved in New York. Now there's two people who really are experts in this, and I'm going to put their information below. One is Fuquan Bilal. Right, he has a company called National Note Group or National Note Group Capital Fund. I think his website is nngcapitalfund.com. I've seen him speak a few times. He's a good guy. I think he's from New Jersey. He invests in non-performing second lien notes. I think just second liens, maybe older, maybe first ones also. But he finds second lien, that means a second mortgage. Somebody takes a first mortgage, that's the first lender that gets paid if they foreclose, and then a second mortgage. He buys non-performing second liens, and if I remember hearing him speak, and I heard him speak a few times, he gets them to reperform, but he buys them at a huge discount. So if a guy owes $100,000, he may buy it for $15,000, and then he'll get the guy to reperform and start making payments, and his return is going to be very high because the guy's making payments on a $100,000 original balance, but he bought it for a fraction of that. He'll also trade those and sell them. So his information is below. Now, the granddaddy of these is Eddie Speed. Eddie Speed has a company called Note School. I've heard him speak at a few masterminds, and he's big into buying notes and buying certain payment streams and things. So these guys are experts. You can go. I'm going to put their information below. If you really want to know about flipping notes, you should know about it. But it's harder in New York because if you can't be the bank in it. Well, I guess we're going to deal with this topic too. So one of the things that we're talking about, people have asked about, is this creative financing, which is something I'm trying to get into. And what creative financing means, and it's a brilliant way to go buy a property, is that if someone says, hey, I want $300,000 for my house, and the house is really worth $300,000, there's no way as a real estate investor you can pay retail. But if he will be creative and maybe give you terms, it might work. So just for an example, to take it to the extreme, if he wants $1,000 a year for 300 years, you'll buy that house, right? Because you can get more income from that property than $1,000 a year, right? That's an extreme. But The typical ways that terms buyers work is that the first thing is they want seller financing. So can you finance the property to me? I like the example I just gave. I'll pay you that amount of money, but you got to give me principal only payments for 5 years, and then I'll pay you the whole thing. And then over the 5 years, you figure out how to make it work. But in New York, it's hard. Another one is subject to. So people will buy a property subject to the original mortgage. That's very hard in New York with attorneys. It's very hard to convince an attorney to sell you a property, and you'll own the property, but the previous owner is going to be on the hook for the mortgage. It's much more common in other parts of the country. That's hard to work in New York. Seller financing is great if you're not the bank, but what a lot of people also do is they become the bank. So they'll take that same example. So the guy wants $300,000. He's willing to give you very good terms, right? He's willing to give you principal only payments for 5 years at the equivalent of paying a rate of, let's say, 3%, something low. And you say great, and you then find a buyer to sell it to, and you give him terms where there's a spread in between, and you're making more money every month than you have to pay the seller. That would make sense, but not in New York, because you can't be the bank in New York because of what I just told you, how long it takes to foreclose, right? In Texas, you can be the bank because if somebody doesn't pay, you're going to get the property back quickly. In New York, it doesn't make sense. So seller financing as the financer doesn't work in New York. It really makes sense if you're the buyer. And subject to is very hard in New York. The other options that I've been exploring are lease options, where the seller still owns the property, but you lease option the property from him, and you say, I'll pay you uh, X amount every month, and then in 3 years I'll buy the property for this amount. And then you then find somebody else. It's called a sandwich lease because you're in between. A tenant buyer who's going to pay you more monthly than you're paying the guy, and who will pay you more for the property when he buys the property, right? Usually it's someone who's got a credit issue that should be able to get fixed over a couple of years, or an income issue. He can't show his income, but it can get fixed over a couple of years. So that's the most common thing. So that lease options can work here. Um, but that's what creative financing means. And because really a few of those tools don't work in New York, right? You can't be the bank, and it's very hard to do a subject to property. There's less creative financing in New York, but lease options still work, and you can definitely buy something on seller financing. The seller's going to finance it to you. So that's kind of what we're talking about with note sales, where you can sort of be the bank. It's hard in New York. But if you're interested in flipping notes, I would go to this NNG Capital Fund, this Fuquan. He's a really good dude from what I saw. And it's Eddie Speed who actually teaches how to do this. But it's easier to do it in other states where, where if you're a note holder, you can foreclose quicker. So tomorrow, if you're interested, show up on the Google Hangout. The link will be below. And thank you for listening.